In 1976, Dallas developer Wesley Goyer envisioned the entertainment center of Love Field after many airlines left to go to Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport. He convinced the city to lease him the terminal lobby in 1974 for the Love Entertainment Center. The city invested $733,000 in renovations to the terminal under the terms that Goyer would pay back a portion of the cost plus a percentage of revenue from the center. What you're seeing now is from 1976. Also that year, under the leadership of our beloved Tom Landry, on January 4th of 1976 in the NFC Championship game, the Dallas Cowboys dominated the Los Angeles Rams with a 37-7 win. Quarterback Roger Staubach threw 220 yards and 4 touchdown passes while also rushing for 54 yards as the Dallas Cowboys upset the favored LA Rams. In 1976, North Texas was visited by some very famous people. President Ford, President Reagan, Texas own ZZ Top and Willie Nelson, and the one and only Elvis Presley, Eric Clapton, and Paul McCartney and Wings. Were you at any of these concerts? And also in 1976, Dallas Mayor Wes Wise resigned to run for Congress. Councilwoman Adeline Harrison became the first female Jewish mayor interim of any major United States city.
You know ZZ Top has arrived when you see these 4 equipment-laden semis complete with painted panoramas of the Texas landscape. It's called ZZ Top's Worldwide Texas Tour, and according to promoters, it costs more, offers the audience more, and will make its backers more than any other rock show in history.
The amount of time that we put behind it and just the size of the show, everything that's involved, makes it an event. It's like a road production show, like a Disney on Parade or Holiday on Ice.
How big is it? The show tours with a buffalo, a longhorn steer, an armadillo, 1 javelina, a vulture, and 2 rattlesnakes.
We think they're just another animal that's typical of Texas, very typical of Texas, and people normally fear rattlesnakes. We like to show that they can be put to some usefulness, you know.
Putting all of this together for a sellout audience of 15,000 is a complicated matter. 28-year-old Dave Blaney, the group's lighting director. Blaney and 25 other people have but one job, making sure that everything is perfect when ZZ Top steps on stage. $350,000 worth of speakers and amplifiers must be raised to a precise height above the stage. Multicolored lights must be adjusted, then switched around again. But it is the sound system that is most important. It must be flawless when the band arrives for the all-important sound check.
Willie Nelson spent only about 5 minutes before the grand jury, and neither he nor his attorney had much to say about the drug investigation.
I don't know anything at all about it.
Nothing about drugs?
Not at all.
Did you take the fifth before the grand jury?
He can't say what he did before the grand jury.
Do you know anything about drug traffic in this area?
He's going to make no statement. No statement. Whatever he had to say, he said in the grand jury. And that's about it.
Did they ask you to come back?
No.
Do you think this is a fishing expedition on the part of the
comment on that?
Nelson's drummer, Paul English, spent about 10 minutes before the grand jury and had no comment on his testimony. During the day, the grand jury also handed down 9 indictments, none of them related to the drug investigation.
A Channel 8 price survey of more than a dozen stores showed convenience store prices to be close to those of supermarkets on a few large volume items. Bread, milk, and eggs were priced competitively, within a few cents of grocery stores. But in other areas, the quick stores were significantly higher. This breakfast cereal cost 25% more in the convenience store. So did this brand of soup. Late snack or meal items like frozen pizza ran about 20% higher. The quick stores depend on sales of beer and wine for nearly 15% of their sales volume. At the stores we checked, beer cost nearly 1/5 more than grocery stores. Convenience store operators say they aren't trying to compete with supermarkets. Convenience stores have been changing in the last few years into a kind of hybrid. They depend to a large extent on snack sales and on impulse buying. Most quick store customers are men who are thought to be more vulnerable to impulse sales than women.
Even though this is only a photograph of Elvis Presley, it's probably the only way you'll get a glimpse of the mystery man, unless you paid $10 to $15 for a ticket to his concert tonight. Elvis arrived at Dallas Love Field about 12:30 this morning in his 707 jet, the Lisa Marie. Even at that late hour, fans were on hand, hoping to catch a glimpse of the famous performer.
Once we seen his jet plane come in, we all went out to the edge of the fence as far as the police would let us go. And we got about 20, 30 yards away from him. And it's just quick, amazing how it works. He gets into his limousine and, man, he's gone before you know it. And we followed him all the way to the hotel. But we never got real close to him. Nobody hardly ever does.
Torbett, his wife, and a friend of theirs spent a good part of today hanging around the hotel where Elvis is staying. But they never got very close to the performer's room. The entire hallway was barricaded by Dallas policemen, who spent most of the day fending off women who want to get near the man called Elvis Presley. One woman even tore off the corner of these matches for a souvenir. Little did she know that the matches belonged to one of the policemen. All this time, Elvis supposedly was sleeping. Recovering might be a better word, though, since he apparently stayed up until 5 this morning partying.
I pledge to you tonight that we will spare no effort to crush the menace of drug abuse. I don't believe that the United States should say we're going to war if certain things happen in Eastern Europe. I think we ought to work with individuals and with countries to make sure that their freedom and their independence is achieved and maintained. But to say the United States would take military action under certain circumstances is not the proper attitude for a president of the United States to take at a time when we're at peace. We ought to encourage individual and national freedom and independence.
Mr. Reagan is rattling his saber?
I wouldn't want to judge that. I can only speak authoritatively about my own policies, which I've tried to in response to your question.
The United States is second to the Soviet Union, and anyone who says anything to the contrary is speaking with Washington sophistry. Now, I have not been speaking with Washington sophistry. Again, I say that Mr. Ford, with no practical answer to the charges that I have made, has been resorting to now personal attacks instead of a legitimate debate. He has offered not one fact to refute what I have been saying about national defense, but I have been quoting substantial authorities on all of this. And frankly, I'm a little sorry about that.
I'd like to sleep a lot longer, and I dread riding up Peavey to come here, but I really enjoy it.
In a way, it was history last night at the Tarrant County Convention Center. It was the first American tour by Paul McCartney in nearly a decade. During the last such excursion, he was accompanied by George, Ringo, and John. The concert, featuring McCartney's group Wings and his wife Linda, came at a strategic time, with the release of a new album and with increasing talk of a mammoth one-night, one-shot Beatle reunion. McCartney didn't mention the possibility of that on stage, but to the surprise of a lot of people, he didn't hesitate to mix in some old Beatle classics. Yesterday, Blackbird and a few other Beatle golden oldies were included in the nearly 2-hour-long concert. Needless to say, the crowd loved it. But he relied most heavily on his recent hits. The concert was built around McCartney's music and personality, and special effects, flashing lights, special projection systems, and during one song, fire and laser beams were used. It was an expensive show to produce, but one McCartney obviously enjoyed. After all, as one of his agents put it, it was time to reconquer the States.